We're in a conference that's really focusing on the impact deaths have had on people's lives. I wanted to talk about trauma, but also give people strategies and different ways they can take care of themselves. One of the biggest suggestions is that self-care is necessary for self-preservation. So really coming up with a plan that you're going to use on a daily basis and really sharing that plan with other people so that it's integrated into your daily life.
Because when your loved one is murdered, you trust us in, that's the work that we do. No judgment. We have a burial guide where we take you step by step by step, regardless of who your loved one was. We don't focus on their past. We work to make sure you bring out the child that you raised.
We are so delighted to be a part of this conference, and our take home from this conference is threefold. We are going to expand our network of collaborative partners. We're going to broaden our legislative agenda to include some of the issues we heard about at this conference, and we are going to strengthen our commitment to ensure that the voice of the people most impacted by issues are heard, and that it is their recommendations that are used in the making of public policy.
And I know we're all in different stages in regards to our death, because I said my son was an altar boy too. He was an altar boy, he was fine, he didn't do anything and all that. And then after a few months we were off, I had to get honest with self. But he was my child.
From our perspective, we have a project that we call the Houston Marshall Plan, and it is nothing less than an effort to rebuild our communities from the destruction that has been wrought by the war on crime and the war on drugs. We differentiate from others, though, and think in our perspective that in order to do this, it has to start with the people in communities. The people in communities are the ones who have to be agents for the change, have to organize, mobilize, and push agendas forward.
So he's coming out, he's struggling. I don't know where he's gonna get a job, got that 3 strikes, got the Corey, but like I used like that advocacy and finding my voice.
So in Boston, guess why Boston is one of the most segregated cities in the country? Because they're building most of the affordable housing in poor communities.
We now have the pleasure of hearing from a woman who actually just gave a workshop this morning that has already inspired a national action from St. Louis to Harlem, where, that's right, where there's already ideas that have been inspired.
We've already lost too much. We've already lost too many. We've buried too many. We've certified too many. We've expelled too many. We've institutionalized too many. We've criminalized too many. We've dehumanized too many. When my kids started school, I said to their teachers, and you know they thought I said, I do not want their spirits broken.
When you're a reporter, you do not really do a lot of talking. At least a good reporter doesn't. You go with your pad and your pen, and you are listening, and you maybe ask a question here or there, but you're writing a story, right? So there are all sorts of stories that I wrote about happening in my neighborhood, and I really got to know my neighborhood.
Lipstick was an acronym for Ladies Involved in Putting a Stop to Inner City Killing. And it addressed the exploitation of women and girls and being exploited in gun trafficking.
This is work that's being done by people who've had the experience themselves. And we see this more and more in social services, that the experience of having been through some traumatic, difficult, or challenging event actually, I think in the old days it used to be kind of a disqualifier. You would say, well, somebody who's had that experience shouldn't be involved in the work. But now we see it as a qualifier, as something, had a family involved in a violent interaction or had to go through grief involved in a loss of a loved one. While we wouldn't want anyone to have to experience that, the folks that have are the best place to inform where we should be going.
When we go to the polls, we have to know, why are we going to the polls, right? So, it's one thing to go to the polls, but who are you voting for? You're voting for your child. You're voting for the one that was lost, and you're voting for the one that was left behind. You're voting for your child, right? You're voting for your community, right? So what do you need in your community to end violence? If our mission is to end violence, and we have a conviction and we are courageous, we are not the generation that courage skipped.
And I choose to believe that by working together across cities, across organizational lines, across racial lines, across every line, when we decide to work together, that violence is preventable, must be prevented. And I want you all to know that you have a partner, an ally in Washington. We got your back. We're here to support you. I can tell you, however, with confidence that over the next 12 months, that this administration, the Obama administration, under the leadership of Attorney General Lynch's leadership, will do everything in our power to work with groups like MJE, faith leaders, mayors, law enforcement, nonprofits, business leaders, to make sure that we continue to reduce violence and continue to work with folks who will continue to do this in future administrations as well.
It's a great honor to support the folks who are doing the work that's being talked about in this conference, and I couldn't think of a better place for us to invest our resources.
I've been a part of this anti-violence movement now for over 20 years. And there is some real movement that's happening now. There's a level of activism that's happening among young people that hasn't been there before. And it's time to make sure that the voices that are not usually heard, it's time for them to be heard. And so one of the critical voices are those parents, those mothers, those fathers who have lost their children to violence.
And through it, I had to sit in that dark place. I couldn't even say, "Thank you, Jesus. God, you're good." I had nothing. So I sat in silence and I said nothing. Because I said, if I open up my mouth and I say something, it's not going to be good. So I sat in silence. And then once again, the Lord spoke to me and said, it's time for you to get up and dance again.
Oh, yes. Come on, let's ask for the rain tonight. Let's ask for the rain. Say rain on us.
To be able to put out on a national level that an organization like Mothers for Justice and Equality, which grew out of the real life experiences of people in Boston, can become a model for helping us solve and address the questions of violence across the country.
This conference happens to be the best thing that has happened to me in such a long time.
I lost my daughter June 25th, 2013, Marissa Boyd Stingley, 19 years old, due to gun violence. I come today to the workshop to find solutions, to take back to Chicago to help prevent the violence there.
Yesterday, the love that we felt in the room was overwhelming. To have mothers come from all around the world to sit down and talk to me, allow me to tell my story, me to listen to their story, it lets me know that I'm not alone.
Because there's an epidemic, and I'm a mom on a mission to stop it, and I come today to find strategies.
I wanted to know what was the impact, what I could come here to take back to Chicago, what positive influence I could receive from the messages that all the parents that are grieving and feeling the same pain I am. I wanted to know, and for my example, to go out back to Chicago and let them know that we're not alone.
We need this space where women can come from all over the world and they can learn this model of empowerment, right? Where they can begin to heal through connectivity and align ourselves so that we are stronger together.